As you enter the Right Success Institute, my home office here in Tucson, Arizona, this is the kind of overview as I sweep gently as I can, holding this camera, because I'm not a photographer. This over here to my far left is where I do my video communications through Zoom primarily. And up here was my first, I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit. This is where I first designed my monadology project, actually. And I don't know if you can read that, but you probably don't want to anyway. But anyway, it's kind of a nutshell of what I'm about. And I'm going to zoom back out. Okay. And I'll come back to, this is where I do my podcasts. There is the podcast kind of title over there on the left, and there's my podium. I do old-fashioned podium-based podcasts. In the background over there is my research library and a reading area. I have a reading area back over there. And in the foreground, I'm not too sure how well you can see it, and I'll move for it. But you can see this grassy area here, and this is where I built a golf simulator because I want to keep my golf skills up to where I am comfortable with it. I don't play very much anymore outside because of the heat here in Tucson and my health, but this area, this golf simulator, really does a good job. And I'm going to try to get down here and show you the simulator. It's right down there. You'll see the little white top. And I hit my golf balls from there. And the trajectories and all the information about golf show up on this big screen TV. So standing back across from it, I can do a lot of things. And I do golf instruction now online. I used to do it, as you can see maybe up here, I had a mobile golf truck where I would go around to people's house and teach golf. And it was a lot of fun. I did this for a few years. I had a big van I would take to people's house, and I had a huge converted truck that I used to use. Here's a little bit close up on that. I had this truck that I would go around and I would show people how to play golf. Beginners mostly. A lot of older people. And this is some of my golf library down here. It's kind of a messed up area right now. I'm going through some transitional stuff, and it's kind of a mess over here with my golf bags and golf clubs. This is a wonderful net. Bryson DeChambeau uses the same basic model, and so I can strike golf balls over the short distance and reach speeds of 100 miles per hour. Although that's kind of my upper limit now. I'm mostly down around 75 because I'm old. But over here, you can move over a little further, and this is kind of my memory section where I remember my days in Vietnam. So the combat air traffic controller, you can see the plaque I got from the 187th Assault Helicopter Company. I worked mostly out of battalion headquarters in operations, but anyway, I did receive a few medals, and I have some good memories. The little mementos on the right over there are my baby spoons that my Aunt Mabel and Uncle Willie gave my mother. And then there's that little red box that holds a chunk of coal. I had a wonderful relationship with a woman a long time ago, and she gave me that for Christmas. She said that's what I deserved. She was a very nice, very wonderful woman. Another life. Some of my books. Up here you see some of my mementos. I use my pyramids for a lot of my videos to help explain the injustices of life, and Wonder Woman protecting the earth from the somewhat unjust organizations and facts of life. And over on the other side I have a trophy. In the middle over there, the trophy eagle that I was awarded when I left the Arizona Department of Juvenile Justice, and then Momentos on the Navajo Reservation, where I formed a school district. And it's another long story in my career. And that's about it for now in here. I'll spin around just a little bit, and again, this is my area over here where I do a lot of my video conferencing and communications with people that aren't online. So that's it for now, and I'll now prepare to do my podcast for today that I want to introduce basically the primary concept of my podcasts in general. And they are video podcasts, I might add, and I'll try to make the videos a little bit better. And now I'd like to give you a brief look into my inner sanctum. It's a rare thing because entrance is denied to most. This is where I get most of my work done. I'm going to give you just a brief look now. As we enter my inner sanctum, this is a brief tribute I have on the wall to John Prine, where I losing my short-term memory in my 77 years. I make a lot of notes to help me, but I like to cover John Prine songs, and they inspire me to write my own. Moving on, as gently as I can, moving this camera. So as we enter the room, you can see my tribute to transhumanism and cybergenesis and Star Wars. And perhaps you can see Darth Vader over here. And this young man who is definitely transhuman. As we move forward, you can see my Variax guitars, which were specially designed and have an Australian heritage. The one on the left, the baritone guitar. One on the right displays my fiery intentions. Down here you'll see some of my guitars that I showcase. My guitars on the left there I use primarily for John Prine, and the one on the right I wrote a special song for Cinco de Mayo, and it represents also the Day of the Dead for my friend here in Tucson. Over to my right, or left, excuse me, I have, this is my musical area where I'm going to walk around this way a little further. And I'm not a professional photographer, so I'll stand way back here, and I'll introduce you to the Blue Notes. The Blue Notes represent my music on behalf of my theme for my podcasts and generally my life, and that is the whole idea of True Lie Blues. I wrote my signature song, True Lie Blues, here. And the Blue Notes, and I sing it. The Blue Notes are named after the two lovely ladies in the rear. There's Do, Re, and me. Do, Re, and me. That's my chair. So it's Do, Re, and me. We are the Blue Notes, singing True Lie Blues and playing. Over here is where I compose most of my music, and there's my blue guitar for the song. This is a brand new Lava Me 3 that I bought just for the purpose of this song, True Lie Blues. So there's that. Now I'm going to turn around again and I'll show you my research area. So bear with me just a moment. This is my white with gold trim Gretsch country guitar, which I basically put together in honor of my mother to write a song for her. She truly loved country music. And then there's over further on the other side of my display is a Jazzmaster. It's a Fender Jazzmaster. It's a wonderful guitar to play, although I cannot play jazz, but I play with it. And over here, this is my main work area. This is where I do most of my metaphysical research and other research as well. And over in here are some of my record keeping and sound equipment. And that's about it. I am going to introduce you to my Pathfinder project here as I outlined it back when I first developed it. This is the Pathfinder project, and I don't know if you can read it or not. I'll do my best to hold it steady. But the Pathfinder project is designed to help people through a troubled time. And this is about the only thing an old, kind of pathetic old man losing it does. But anyway, I do a lot of strategic planning with people to try to help them through these troubled times. Unfortunately, I don't do much with my old high school friends who don't think too much of me apparently, but most of my mail, I get hundreds every day, come from beyond the sphere of my memory. So that's it for the inner sanctum, and I'll now return to my primary podcast that I wish to do today. Hello, my name is Alan Wright. I'm here today to do this podcast with you to orient and introduce myself, my organization, and what I have to say. This will be the first of several podcasts that I will distribute widely because a very important matter that I want to talk to you today. Again, I'm Alan Wright with the Wright Success Institute. I am a self-professed professor of metaphysics. I say that because I want to introduce you to something that is part of this project that you need to hear. Right now, there are a lot of very urgent and important misconceptions and lies, outright politically based lies going on in this country. You don't know whether to turn on what news, into what place on the internet. You don't know what you're going to hear. Your friends don't have the answers. Even your family doesn't necessarily know what they're talking about the matters that I'm going to bring to you today. This is an existential emergency. This is important, folks. Now, I may look funny dressed in red with my hat coming to you from my home office here in Tucson, Arizona, but I hope you hear my words. Now, I dress in red because I have always been a rebel. I'm a rebel now. Even when I was state school superintendent for juvenile corrections, when I was assistant superintendent in California, in Colorado when I was vocational director, around the nation when I was state and federal, when I was the president of the Association for State and Federal Directors, when I was talking with Dee Hawk, who was the founder and CEO Emeritus of Visa, Debbie Deming, who was a management guru and basically pulled together the country of Japan, when I talked about Mr. Fuller, I've been a rebel. I'm upset and angry at what's going on in our country and the world. I'm going to talk to you about it, and I'm going to talk to you about it in a way you've never heard before. Now, to add further urgency to this, I've had 4 surgeons tell me I shouldn't even be alive today. They won't operate, said it's too dangerous, I have less than a 5% chance of getting off the table alive, and not even to mention in what condition. So I stand here today to tell you some things that I've learned over a long career. I just turned 77 in the last few days. And I want to tell you this because it's well studied and it goes to the core of doing the right thing, in my opinion. Now, I'm introducing a podcast. My video podcast, Alan, Right or Wrong, WSI, number 1, right fielder. What does that mean? With a question mark. You have a decision to make. I don't have one. I've already made it. I'm going to do the best I can to get this urgent message out to you. Can't make a horse drink, although you lead him to water. I didn't say that very well, but you get the meaning. You can ignore what I'm saying. The message may never get to you, but I have to try. For me, for my legacy, what I believe in. Now, I will tell you a lot about this threat in a moment, but I feel the need right now to give you a reason to listen to me. Why me, and why would I be different than anyone else? All these famous people that you like to listen to, from their singing and Taylor Swift, or the celebrity football or basketball players, or just other celebrities or newscasters, or whoever. Why listen to me and not them? They have something in the game that they need and want more than telling you the truth. Most of them, frankly. They rephrase it. They turn it around. They do what their bosses tell them to do. The owners of the television stations, all around. Now, they'll deny that, of course. They make a lot of money to do it. And if you haven't learned by now that you can't believe what politicians tell you, I probably won't be able to help you here. But I'm going to tell you something that will change your life and probably protect your quality of life beyond anything you're aware of today until now. Again, I don't deny being a rebel. I'll tell you a little intro story. Yesterday, a young lady came in to say goodbye. And she was standing in the door and she saw my sign that says, Wright Success Institute, Alan Wright, Professor of Metaphysics. And she got a little chuckle or a smirk or something. And I'm not putting her down. I love the little girl, and she's wonderful. She's a senior in a very nice university right now. She was probably reacting, because she's very honest and straightforward and couldn't control it. But she was showing me her amusement that I would think I was of the caliber of a professor of metaphysics. Well, I tell you, I'm self-professed. I do not want to be a part of any university right now. Now, I have 3 degrees from universities. Degrees from more than one. I've been to 8 universities and colleges. I have hundreds of hours of work, where you only need generally 120 or so for an undergraduate degree and 30 or 40 for a master's. You know, I've been around, and I know things from a different point of view than most everybody else you'll listen to. Now, why is that, and why does it matter? Why is it amusing to this young girl? Because we are used to people like doctors and lawyers and professors and electricians and plumbers. People have specialties, and they're very good at what they do. In fact, the Industrial Revolution for the last couple of 100 years depended on that. For people to specialize, part of a chain reaction of making things happen and building the technology system that's made our lives great, in many respects, for most of us. However, it's failed many of us as well. And I'm going to tell you about that and what we can do about it. Doctors don't understand metaphysics. Lawyers don't understand metaphysics. Metaphysicians who've studied law and studied medicine do. Not to be a doctor or a lawyer, which I wouldn't want to be, had choices to be, chose not to be. As a metaphysician, I'm going to explain what that means today. Most of you don't know. You may think it's sort of woo-woo. There's something way out there and off the charts, because that's kind of what you see in the popularized version. I'm not popular. I'm a rebel. But I want to tell you about why I can talk to you about metaphysics, why I should talk to you about metaphysics, and why you should listen. It may save your life certainly will save the quality of your life, if you believe anything I'm going to tell you right now. I want some of your time. I have no customers, I have no clients, I'm not selling anything, I have no students. You're a guest here in my home, in my office, home office, in the Right Success Institute right now. I hope you'll stay around and give me some of your time. That'd be the only thing I ever ask of you, is your time right now, for you to hear some things that you need to hear. Now, if you're too busy with your telephones or your computers or your TVs or your fishing or your hunting or your whatever it is you do, okay. But I'm asking you to take a few minutes of your time. This won't be a short video. I've got things to say that need to be said. I'm going to say them. What is a metaphysician? What are metaphysics? I am an autodidact. That means I didn't learn most of what I know in a university, sitting in a chair, listening to somebody preach to me, okay, or a textbook. Textbooks and the people who teach from those textbooks owe their allegiance to the people that write the textbooks. And those are the same people, the same small group, less than a dozen, that own all the media in the United States, including the people who write textbooks. You're going to hear what they want you to hear. A lot of it's very useful and very important, for sure, but a lot of it isn't. A metaphysics professor does a similar thing. They study all the religions, all the mythology, they study the philosophy, they study social science, and some ontological mathematics. I've done all of that. Plus, I've studied some of the mathematical physics that make up the world of science that leads to biology, chemistry, neurology, medicine. And I can talk about that. Now, here's the way I explain it through a metaphor. There is a river running down towards the oceans from the mountains. From the high to the low, the river runs. I'm going to talk to you about, on this side of the river are the mathematic, physics people, the science people that have directed our economy and directed our medicine and all of the rest of our scientific technology development for a very pragmatic, everybody in America thinks that they are, boy, they're just right down to earth, very pragmatic people. They only want to do it if it's, going to build something or make something better materially. Well, this is the science of that runs down this side of the river. Okay? And it has, like I said, done a lot for technology and making a better life. However, it's limited. And that limit is very important. And I'm going to explain it to you in a way you've never heard before. On the other side of the river is metaphysics. Not all metaphysics, though, because the metaphysician I am stands with one leg on this side of the river and one leg on this side of the river. Now, I'm using a little side story. I actually did that at the headwaters of the Mississippi River up on the border of Canada. I actually stood on both sides of the Mississippi River. Very cute, very funny. I enjoyed that. It was a little bit like standing on my hands and my knees at the four corners in the United States of where Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, and Utah meet. Anyway, that's a side story. But the point of it is, on both sides of the river, I can see it from the science point of view, the mathematics point of view, the physics point of view, and I can see it from the mythology, the religion, social sciences point of view. Ontological mathematics, as opposed to the calculus mathematics of building things and making things work well. Well, why bother with this side, you say? Okay, I'm going to explain that to you right now. By standing with both feet on different sides of the river, I can cover both areas in an interdisciplinary way. It's not as a specialist. Okay, and I didn't just gently stick my foot in the waters of all this. Okay, I've studied it in depth, thousands and thousands of dollars on books that would have filled this room. I had to get rid of them. I needed it for office space. Okay, many hours of tech and work in computers. Many hours of universities and colleges. But beyond that, for some of you out there that won't pay heed to that kind of talk because you don't trust professors, you don't trust academics. Most of you have never gone beyond high school or maybe a few hours of college. For good reasons, I'm sure. Money, family, etc., etc. Nevertheless, academics prepares you for good things, but not enough. And not enough if you actually, let me give you an example, a doctor. Most doctors know science fairly well. They know some aspects of physics and some aspects of mathematics, but mostly they know medicine. Pharmacology, their specialty in medicine. That doesn't make them know anything about metaphysics or other things in the world. Okay, that's an example. Lawyers, they have a specialty. They don't know a darn thing about things outside their specialty. We automatically think they're smarter than us because they have these degrees. That's not always correct. Now, for you people that don't respect academics, I want to tell you, I had worked underground in a copper mine to pay the bills. A half-mile underground breaking rock with a hammer. I worked in smelters and crushers. I worked in gas stations, pump gas. Worked on cars. I have worked in fast food restaurants. I worked in casinos, dealing cards and craps. I could go on with a lot of other jobs, driven a truck, taught golf, coached many sports at all levels, played sports in college. Now, this Arizona hat, I graduated, one of my degrees is from the University of Arizona. I played baseball a little at ASU, and I left because I made a big mistake. Instead of my love of baseball, I found a love of a woman, young woman, beautiful. Went on to beauty contests and won. Beautiful, lovely person. She decided that there were other guys better than me. Okay, so I ended up in Vietnam. I wasn't a particularly good student. Okay, I was a rebel. I didn't like a lot of the classes I was sitting through. Didn't like the way they presented it. It was boring. I wasn't good at boring. So I had to learn on my own. And I have. Okay, I have. I taught science at all levels, all the way from 6th grade through to third-year medical students at the University Medical Center in how to open an office practice laboratory with especially in microbiology. I did that for 3 years. Not very long. I was bored. Moved on to the casinos in Las Vegas. When I left Vietnam, I was a changed person. I was a combat air traffic controller. And I hated what I saw. I saw from our country, from young men in our country, from leaders who went on to become generals later in time, field officers. I saw terrible things. And the United States was definitely not innocent in that whole thing. I know that for a fact. You may or may not think it's patriotic for me to say it. The United States is not an innocent in these matters internationally. Whatever you believe, whatever you've been told, and that doesn't mean I don't support those young men who have lost their lives and have risked their lives for this country, not knowing what I'm going to tell you, what I know today. I was one of them, so I can speak. I'm not a hypocrite. I've been shot at. I've killed people. I've been down in a helicopter. I've been around. But what I want you to understand is all of this has given me a different view on life than what you're used to. Yes, I was offered 3 doctoral degree programs to become a professor at different schools, and I chose not to. I'm not good at joining. I had one bad experience as it is with a university fraternity of alumni who chose to wear all black, alienate me, and pretend I was dead because I took a vote they didn't like. They challenged my loyalty. Fair enough. I voted my heart. I voted my mind, not what they told me to do. They bribed me and I didn't take the bribe. But I used them in return for trying to bribe me. I won. They didn't, although later they did. But that's another matter. I know that's a side rail, but I'm trying to give you an idea of things I've been through and things I stand for, and that I've been down and I've been out. I've been shot at and robbed and beat almost to a pulp. I was put in a hospital for standing against people in a school district stealing from the funds. I later subdivided that school district, built a new school district, and tried my best to get rid of a bunch of people that were abusing drugs, abusing kids, abusing their jobs, stealing money, stealing. It's a mess. I took it on and I won. It was hurt. I was in a hospital. It hurt my life, hurt my marriage, but here I am. I'm okay. I want you to know it hasn't been a smooth ride to some professorship at some university, you know, doing dinners with people and convincing them of what you know and stuff like that, writing books. No, I'm a fighter. Now, so what, you say? Why take up my time with this? What is this threat you're talking about? People, you are, in fact, we are facing an existential threat of survival and the ability not to just survive but to thrive in this country, and it's already starting to happen. I'm going to explain it to you in a way anyone can understand. My dad, who only had a 4th grade education, great man, good man, hard-working man, but he would understand what I'm going to say right now, and he'd know I'm speaking from my heart, as well as my mind. None of you actually know what artificial intelligence is. And you really don't. You may think you do. It's not the ChatGPT. It's not what your phones are starting to do to you and with you, or your computers in any way right now. It's not the things that help with your car and all of the things you got from the military research, DARPA, to help you navigate. It's not the satellite communications. That's not really what I'm talking about. It's a piece of the puzzle. But I'm talking to you about what's coming like a freight train at you right now, and you don't see it. You don't see it because the media is lying to you. They're withholding information. That's a form of lie. I call it a true lie. They're telling you what you want to hear, not what you need to hear. They're telling you what works for the people that own the media, control it. They're bosses that pay their paychecks. They're well-meaning. They're people having to make a living like everybody else. Nevertheless, you're not hearing the story. You'll hear it from me. Look it up. Do your own research. I've done mine. The artificial intelligence is a misnomer. It's cybernetics. And it's good cybernetics with algorithms that take mathematics and knowledge and turn it into useful things. I chose not to do this podcast with artificial fancy graphics produced by AI, what we're calling AI, which is a misnomer. I wanted to speak to you directly from my heart and my mind right here, right now, behind the podium, because I stand behind it and I stand for what I'm saying. That's what this symbol used to be. I hope it still is. This threat facing you is from the development of something that is actually a form of artificial intelligence, but it's really not artificial. What it is advanced. They can't use that word because it makes you think they're going to be smarter than you.
these computers, these robotics, these transhuman cyborgs. But they will be, and they are being, and they're already being developed. It's not something you're going to see in the public domain soon. You're seeing little cartoonish things to take you off guard and to think it's silly or not make you not worry. In fact, in hidden laboratories around this country, hidden by these people, the CIA and all the people that work for them. Now I want to say something right now, and I want you to assume something for a minute. Just assume it. Hypothetically, like you're in a class in college. Hypothetically, I want you to assume that I have an eyes-only, above top secret crypto clearance. Hypothetically, and I'm here to tell you, these laboratories exist under contract from the Department of the Army, primarily, but other parts of the service as well, including the space service that Mr. Trump put together. These organizations are creating right now the type of intelligence that will be used by the people at the very top of the socio-economic pyramid, running our corporations, running our military, and paying the bills for all these politicians that are doing what they tell them to do. No matter what they tell you. No matter. Some of them do it better, some of them do it worse, some of them are terrible, some of them are a little better at it. But nevertheless, they're paid politicians through campaign donations and otherwise. You can't believe them. The world is about to change dramatically, not a little bit, not slowly, not like you were taught evolution is. You weren't taught punctuated evolution. You should have been. Yes, things have evolved from the stars all the way down through the animals and plants and to us. But that isn't even half of it. That's the part taught you over here on this side of the river. On this side of the river, I stand to tell you there's a much bigger story to it. So when I talk metaphysics, it's not just religion, philosophy, social sciences. I'm going to give you a little piece of what we call ontological mathematics. Why? No math formulas. Just listen to what I have to say for a minute. All of mathematics, although you haven't heard this from anybody, it's just possibility and probability. No matter how accurate it is, it can't get to reality. There isn't a physicist or mathematician alive who can tell you honestly that they understand all there is to know about reality. Mention quantum physics. Mention when you get down past 28 or so subatomic part particle, part wave objects. Ask about how they fully understand that. They understand a lot about it. But the way they understand it, the way they interpret that is not correct. And I'm going to explain that if you give me the time. Ontological mathematics is about this punctuated evolution, but it didn't start in the sky with a big bang. It didn't. If you understand, and I know you don't, Einstein's relativity theory, don't even try to understand the physics and mathematics of it, but understand this. Everything, literally everything, is relative and related to everything else. Why does that matter? If you want to look at the evolution of a planet and everything on this planet, you can look back in time to what they call the Big Bang. But there wasn't a Big Bang that started it all, that developed our universe, directed or created by our God. There is no God, there is no universe, there was no Big Bang. There was an evolutionary event where atomic particles reached a point in density, dark matter, where there was what we would call nuclear type explosions, and they have this fancy time scale of how everything else came about, which is partially true. But that's not the whole story. I'm here to give you the rest of the story. In a nutshell. It's just an introduction. Ontological mathematics and punctuated evolution. Folks, it starts trillions of times smaller than an atom. And nobody on the planet's ever seen an atom. They have fancy microscopy these days. It can look like telescopes but downward into small, very tiny things. But nobody has ever seen an atom. And what I'm going to tell you about is trillions of times smaller than an atom. It's like all those centuries when people couldn't see air and didn't know what it was. Okay? Fish can't see the water. It's what they live in. Well, there's another sea. It used to be called by physicists on this side of the river, Paul Dirac, the Sea of Dirac. Well, some people call it the ether. It's been called other things. There is something, and it's not a wave. A wave is like a moving picture of it. Now, I was a radar operator, trained in air traffic control, military radar usage. I've used it a lot. I know what I'm talking about. A wave is a picture, moving picture with frequency, with amplitude. It's got trough and it's got an amplitude, but it's a picture. But what does that represent? So when these physicists on this side of the river talk about wave particle, what they're saying is they can't find its mass. They can calculate it somewhat based on a lot of other fancy stuff they do, and then interpret incorrectly. There's no such thing as a wave. It's a picture of these quanta. All of these subatomic particles that they talk about, but they don't really know about. They built fancy equations for them, and they're pretty accurate, but they're not right. They're not totally correct. And there's a reason for that, and I'm going to tell you what it is right now, and how it relates to this existential threat facing you today. Right, that hurt. In order to tell you this properly, I got to go back to the late 1600s, early 1700s. You've heard of Isaac Newton in your studies, I'm sure, in high school. And you talked about the apple falling from the tree and gravity and all that. Wrote the Principia, which was a standard for science for many years. Okay? Well, there was another man you didn't hear about, most likely. 90% of you have not heard of him. His name was Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz. He was German. That's one of the reasons you didn't hear from him, who he was. Okay, you English speakers in the United States and England, particularly. Well, Isaac Newton did develop calculus, a certain kind of calculus. But the kind of calculus he developed wasn't satisfactory. It works pretty well for a lot of things, but it didn't explain a lot either. Gottfried Leibniz, at the same time, during the pandemic, during the same time that Einstein did, he developed a different form of calculus. Differential calculus, which is widely used today and taught and useful. Well, in so doing, just as Einstein said that in his later years that your imagination is more important than knowledge. He didn't mean knowledge wasn't important. He meant your imagination is more important. And why? And I'm not talking fantasy here. I'm talking the ability to picture things in your mind. Build an image and understanding as opposed to some formulas and some things like that, scribbles on paper. Well, Leibniz came up with the concept of monads. Now, in the next 3 or 4 podcasts I'm going to do, I'm going to talk in detail about monads, monadology, quantum physics, and how all that's important to you today. Today I'm just introducing these other podcasts I'm going to do. Standard science can't explain monadology very well. There is one good book I could recommend to you if you ever got interested. I can't see, I took my glasses off because of the glare. Let me put them back on and get this book, it's important. Just take me a minute. I'm not very well organized right now. I've been moving everything. Here it is. I read every night here. This is my reading section. The book is called Eidomorphism. I think I pronounced that correct. The Philosophy of Ontological Mathematics. It's a great book. It's a great book. It talks about everything I'm talking about right now, even monadology in big part, and better than I do, but it's not what you want to hear and as normal people want to hear, let's put it that way. Okay? If you really want to understand it, this is the only book I've ever really found that's really great. There's also a guy named Mike Hockney. I don't know if he's a real guy. I don't know that the guy who wrote this is a real guy. I think it's a group of people. And they wanted to write it anonymously because of the lack of respect most metaphysicists get. So they don't want to ruin their careers. They're university people that are professors of physics, etc., mathematics. And they don't want to be shunned by their more, let's say, accepted academic colleagues. Monads are important because they're the building blocks of everything, you included. Everything. There isn't anything that exists that isn't part of a monad, including time. Not a single one of these physicists over here understands time on the right side of the river. Even Stephen Hawking tried, didn't. Time. Can't see it. We just throw out different ways to measure it. They're artificial. We make it up. Yeah, we can say it's based on the rotation of the Earth or the time it takes light to get from the sun to the Earth. Nobody knows how light gets from the sun to the Earth. We talk about the speed of light. Light doesn't go anywhere. Yeah, I know that sounds crazy to you. Light doesn't go anywhere. It's a vibration. It's how fast it takes to vibrate to the Earth. Boom, 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 boom. You ever seen a freight train have to stop suddenly on a railroad track? And when they stop, it goes boom, 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 boom. It's because it stops so suddenly. Well, think of it in reverse. Monads are at the front of that train. Okay? As it takes off, you'll see these clumps all the way down the line when the cars start going. Vibrations are nothing more than light vibrating. Well, when something vibrates, it's like I was telling you earlier about the troughs and the waves. When light vibrates, or anything vibrates, we have different kinds of waves to be sure, but these waves are pictures. And what light does is, when it waves, it's got a trough, it's pushing out, and when it's down low, it's pausing. Think alter. I lost my train of thought. Sorry, I'm thinking of something else. I was thinking of Tesla for a minute. Anyway, light pushes out from this monad, pushes out, and then it sucks back in. Pushes out, sucks back in. Think a locomotive. But also, you know, everything does. Your heart, it beats and it sucks in blood. It beats and pushes and sucks in blood. Okay, it does all these things. Your lungs, you blow out, you suck in. Same thing. Okay, same thing. Only monads don't move. Monads are that sea, that ether that we live in. And you say, well, smart people don't believe in ether anymore. You probably say that. I'm telling you that the ether, this ethereal stuff, is monads. Now here's the other side of that coin. I want you to imagine a coin. I don't have one in my hand right now. A coin has two sides, heads and tails. And then it's got this thin little piece, which is the substance of the coin, okay? I want you to imagine three things, both heads and the substance, okay? Contrary to everything you've been taught, the essence of that monad is those three things. It's one side of the coin, the other side of the coin, and that substance. That substance is simply time. We call it a chronoton. The one side, say heads, is the photonic side and the source of light. The tail side is simply gravitonic, the source of gravity, thing that pulls everything together, creates mass, sucks in. This side, the head side, pushes out light, vibrates, it pushes out, and it vibrates against other monads. They're all wall to wall, they're everywhere, they're eternal, they're infinite. They're the tiniest, tiniest thing. Nobody created them. There was no beginning, no end. That's what life is. They live as a monad. Now here's the clincher, if you can get your head around this. The monad doesn't exist either. It comes and goes. It's a ghost. It's the Holy Trinity. The reason it comes and goes is this pushing and pulling. And it pushes, and it takes a tiny, tiny little bit to pull, and then it takes a tiny, tiny little bit to get back to pushing, and in between that is time. Physicists over here on this side of the river call it instantiation. What it is a switch going on and off. Just a switch. But it's nature. It's what the world's made of, these monads. They're ghosts. The Holy Ghost, the Holy Trinity. They're phases, not things. We have to think of them as things, monads, but they're triphasic. Boom, ba boom, it's the dance, the Wu-Li dance. Dance of the Wu-Li. Metaphysics. These people over here with their fancy mathematics, even Max Planck, who discovered that down about 10 to the minus 33 or 34 meters means terribly small. I mean, 10 to the minus 9th, we're talking trillions, right? We're talking now 10 to the minus 33 or so, trillions of trillions. That's how tiny they are relative to a meter. Relative to you for all practical purposes. That's as far as we can see in this so-called universe, with best telescopes imaginable. Now the scientists, the astronomers like to say, well, the universe is expanding. They say it's expanding. Not necessarily. It's just that they can't see that far. They're expanding their ability to see further through better telescopes. There's no universe. Infinity doesn't expand. It's already where it is. Everything. Never ends. No beginning. At the bottom of all that, and at the bottom of the mathematics over here, the classical mathematics, are the symbols 0 and 1. 0 and 1 don't exist. Now you say, no, he's really nuts. 0 and 1 don't exist in nature. They're symbols. If you studied mathematics and the history of mathematics as I have, you'd know that for many, many, many years, scientists didn't use zeros. That didn't come from the West. It came from the East. In fact, there's no 0 and there's no 1. There's no everything. There's no universe. There's no God. There's no everything. There's no creator. Always was, always will be, always is. It just changes its form. Comes and goes. Monads never die, they never go away, but they change their form. Now how do they do that? Well, the gravitonic phase pushes things into mass. It sucks. It sucks things together. Monads cluster. They don't move, they cluster because of timing. They're in phase with other monads during the gravitonic phase. They constantly go back and forth, and they always will and always have. But if they're in time with the other monads around them, that all works good and they cluster. If they're out of phase and it's pushing it causes them to do what Einstein discovered later on. It's very similar. It's Brownian motion. You probably think he got the Nobel Prize for relativity. No, he got it for Brownian motion. And it's complicated. There's this, it's a turning, it's a spin these physicists over here like to talk about. How they differentiate different ones of these quantized subatomic waveforms. Well, they're explaining it wrong, their interpretation's wrong, their experiments are elaborate, their technology is elaborate, but boy could we use that money to take people off the streets. Which kind of takes me to the next phase of this. I'll try to kind of wrap it up a little. I know you're probably, if you're ever with me, you're probably being pushed a bit. I want to talk about the concept on this side of the river of justice. And how does this all relate? These lies, what I call true lies, and wrote a book about and wrote a song about. True lies are lies that you take to be true, but they're not. But you act like they're truth, you build your worldview around it, and you act like that. And it leads you bad ways. Subtly sometimes, not so subtle other times. Like the young 20-year-old boy tried to shoot the president, president-to-be. Okay? And his thinking got muddled somehow. Incorrect understanding of the world and what's his role in it. All true lies don't lead to that dramatic a mistake, but they lead us to make bad career choices, bad marital choices, bad occupational choices, bad travel choices. True lies. And your parents told them to you when you were a child. Fairy tales. You know that's a lie. Does it have some value? Certainly. It teaches you morals, it teaches you some nice ways, it teaches you good things about being a human. Ways to be, it helps build children. Sure, okay, but still lie. And sometimes it can lead people to keep believing these fairy tales their whole life, and that's where religion comes in. Religion becomes myth when it's understood to be primitive. Societies over history have learned that the previous ones were myths, not true religions. Of course, they were to them. Christianity is a very, very dangerous thing. We've gone all over the world, the earth, fighting wars, the Christian soldiers. I wanted to be one. Till I went to Vietnam and was one. And I learned I was wrong. True lies. There is no God. Jesus was not resurrected. Jesus didn't rise from the dead. Okay, all that's bullshit. Mythology. It's what people take and they use it to give meaning to their lives and the world they around them based on what they know. They mean well, most of them. However, a lot of them, specifically today, don't mean well. They use it for their own good. I'll use an example. Just one. A very well-known minister, online and in a huge church, pays himself over $50 million a year, lives in at least 3 mansions, millions of dollar mansions, and he's telling lies to make people feel better about their departed loved ones or the way life's going or their hopes for the future after death. Now I'm sorry, you may turn off now because I said that. Remember, I used to preach behind one of these. I wanted to become a Presbyterian minister till I went to Vietnam. I learned differently. You probably don't like that. Christian democracy. Oxymorons. Just like it is to say a true lie is an oxymoron. People aren't equal. And their votes aren't equal. It is not right for a very, very ignorant person to cancel out the vote of someone who knows a lot more about leadership and a lot more about the world and politics and other nations when those votes cancel each other out. And that's the game they play. They know that, the politicians. You don't know that because you love to hear everybody's equal. As human beings, God's children. It's a lie designed for control. For thousands of years, controlling people, building it up to where it is today. Two lies. Metaphysics is an interpretation of that and an understanding of that. I like a lot of the myths. I like it. I enjoyed learning about it. But they're true lies. I've read the Bible several times and I've studied other religions. But they're just not true. Now you know that in your heart. I hope you do. If you don't, you're very foolish. Now why would I say that? I'm trying to get you to watch a video that I'm doing and believe what I'm saying. I'm saying because it's true. That's why they call me a rebel. I say things people don't necessarily want to hear. Even though it's true. Go figure. This threat that I'm talking about, this existential emergency, if you don't get over that stuff, you're probably going to die soon. And if not, you're going to be a walking, undead zombie. Out of a job, out of a home, your family will be dissipated, you're not going to have any income, Social Security will be gone, all your investments will be gone, because right now they're developing the new cybernetic socioeconomic plan. It's for real, folks. They have the power to do it, they have the money to do it, they have the people to do it, they have the military to do it. It is going to happen. All you can do is prepare for it. And that leads me to strategic planning and what the Right Success Institute is about. I am an excellent strategic planner. And I will help you for free if you want it. You won't believe it. I've hit you with a bomb right now. A word bomb. If you're a strict Democrat, capitalist, Christian, crony of the system, and you're not listening to logic, proof is all around you. If you don't want to face it, okay, that's up to you. That's why I have the question mark here. If you want to think I'm wrong, okay, that's your choice. But it is an existential choice. You don't believe that, probably. The artificial misnomer being developed right now in secret laboratories around the world, not just in the United States, not just in China, not just in Russia, not just in South Korea, North Korea, but around the world, they're competing for who's going to control you using this information. I don't think you can get your head around this, but I'm going to tell you anyway. This stuff they're developing in many different ways, you can think of it as smart computers if that works for your robotics, however you want to see it. And this entire socioeconomic communication system is going to be not just a little smarter than humans, it's going to be 1,000,000 times smarter than humans. And I don't mean just because of words or ChatGPT. I'm talking about the ability to think and to plan and to execute, to control the environment, to control the electrical grid, to control the internet, to control the military, all communications, satellite communications. Sounds preposterous, science fiction, doesn't it? It ain't. It's happening. Again, assume. Eyes only. Above top secret. Crypto clearance. Hypothetically. Because if I had one and I said it, I'd be breaking the law. But speaking hypothetically, you decide. I've talked to lieutenant generals, former chief of staff of the Army. I've talked to the man who headed DARPA, who was the head of command communication control for the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I've talked to many, many others. I've been places that you can't even imagine. I'm telling you folks, it's here on your doorstep. Ignore it at your own peril. The dictionary says that the definition of ignorance is not being stupid. It may be, but that's not the definition. The definition is refusal to pay attention. Not that you can't, or not that you couldn't, but that you won't pay attention. If you're going to ignore me, if you're ignoring anybody that told you about me, told you about these podcasts, shame on you. If you're here and you don't believe me, well, that's up to you. You got your own life. Free will is sort of a real thing within limits. But I'm here to tell you because it matters. I'm using the last moments of my life. My doctors 3 years ago said I should be dead and they can't operate. 4 very distinguished surgeons have said that. Now, I'm not going to go into all that, but I'm going to tell you they're right. That I am alive through some very strange things. That I am alive and I'm using my time that I have left to help you. That's just the truth of it. I'm not going to get popular for this. I'm not sure hardly anybody's going to even see it. But I'm going to try. Not to get popular, but because it's the right thing to do. Right with a W. I stand for that. I coached football, baseball, basketball, men, women, children. So I believe in physical competition, cooperative competition, teamwork. I've coached, I've taught, I've learned, I've worked hard at the hardest jobs people can find, dug ditches, okay, to pay my way. It's not good out there. It's not right out there. Fix it! You better not say, what can I do about it? I'm on vacation, I'm retired. You better figure out a way to get involved. If you're afraid, I'm sorry. I've been afraid. I was afraid when I ran out in the middle of a mortar attack and helped a guy be hauled off to safety. He died. Well, a little bit after, I held his insides together. Why am I telling you that? I was scared to death when I did it. Yeah, I got a medal for it. He died. Who killed him? We did. He never should have been in Vietnam. That's a fact. Robert McNamara, former Secretary of Defense. President Johnson, who resigned, chose not to run again. They lied, and they admitted it in writing. I knew it because I was carrying dispatches back from the field to headquarters in Tan Son Nhut, Saigon. I knew the truth. All the time they were lying to Westmoreland, and then Westmoreland was lying to the President and the Secretary of Defense, and they were all lying to the public. Never should have been there. Conducted horribly. I'm still suffering from Agent Orange myself, and I have many friends with less body parts. I doubt they'll even listen to me because I don't sound patriotic. I don't sound democratic. I don't sound Christian. So how can they possibly listen to me? I'm a rebel. Alienated, cast out. Yes, I've had my successes, but who gives a damn now? In the past. You know anybody that's subdivided a school district? Do you understand how hard that is with all the laws involved? I did it with federal law, Indian law, county law, state law, education law, and all the bureaucrats that go along with it. Got it done in a few months, not years. Had a school district get out of a federal lawsuit in California that cost millions and millions and millions of dollars. I've been fighting it for 10 years. I got them out of it. It took me 3. But I did it, and I have letters to prove that I did it. I'm not saying that to impress you. I'm saying that for bona fides. I want you to hear me, and I want you to know I'm speaking from knowledge and the ability to see things other people can't quite put their head around. It's through experience, folks. I couldn't throw a baseball very well until I was one of the best pitchers around. I had a 13 strikeout a game average. Just a puny little kid, too. Wasn't very much to look at. Not a good student. But I sure worked hard to get better. Played at one of the best college baseball schools in the nation, in the history of the nation. under one of the best coaches ever. Now he did come out to the mound one day and say, "Wright, you're the dumbest pitcher I ever coached." And he turned around and walked off. He didn't like what I was doing. But I did it anyway. Did okay. I used to wear my red pitching jacket in Vietnam in a helicopter with people shooting at me. I used to have to tell people, "Why is he doing that? That's stupid." I said, "No, they can't hit what they're aiming at. They're going to hit something behind them or maybe in front of them. They're not going to hit me." And they didn't. I had one come in right beside my head, up, through. Wasn't good. Didn't hit me. I'm sorry for the stories and getting off. I don't know how to get across to you. I'm just doing the best I can. These are a big subject, it's very important, and it is happening right now around you. You just aren't looking in the right places. You need to protect your family and your friends the best you can, and the best way to do that is prepare. Ever since I was a Boy Scout and a troop leader and all that stuff, I went to college before I got the Eagle Scout. I should have finished it, I didn't. I had, I don't know, 19 or 20. I don't remember now, well, what you had to have. But be prepared. Know everything you can. There's things you can do to prepare for what's going to happen. If you study the economics just a little bit, and you understand cryptocurrency, and you understand the nature of the Federal Reserve, and the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, and you understand about sanctions and where that's leading and what the BRIC nations are doing, you should understand that a little bit, and then you'd see where you fit in that picture. And it isn't pretty, folks. And the people we put in charge of handling it are politicians. What feels good, what looks good that day, their careers. Now, do they say they're patriotic? Of course they do. Maybe they are. But their actions don't necessarily show it. I am reasonably certain that the head of the Secret Service of the United States is horrified by what happened to Trump the other day. And I'm horrified to know that it did happen. Because I've been telling people for a long time, I was an expert shot in the military. I grew up hunting, shooting. That was a simple kill shot. He should have never been allowed in that building. Now you guys know that, don't you? I know you do. Trump just turned, for pure luck, not God's grace like he's saying, because he's an asshole, but because he just turned to use a teleprompter he would normally use. Just as he turned his head this way, like this, he turned his head, instead of the bullet hitting him on, I lied, he turned his head this way. When he turned, instead of the bullet hitting him here, where it was aimed, he turned and it hit him here. Pure luck! But he's going to ride that all the way to the presidency, folks. I know you want to believe him, but he's a psychopathic narcissist. That's the worst politics you'll ever hear from me. The man just simply is a fraud. He's not well-intentioned. He's not going to do what he says he's going to do. And if he does, it'll be because he thinks it's best for him, not you. Surely you can tell the difference between a billionaire and a working man and woman. If not, you're quite foolish. And if so, I can't help you. I'm working on an old song of John Prine's right now that I may have showed you at the beginning of this video if you watched it. The Caravan of Fools. I like John Prine. I like his music, and I try to play his music. I'm not much of a musician, but I am a believer in the music of the spheres and the origin of mathematics, frankly, through these vibrations of the monads. That's the origin of sound and music and light. I know you don't believe me, I know you don't understand it, and you're not hearing it from anybody else. You think I'm a fool. Maybe I am. But I'm foolishly here giving you my heart and my brain for what it's worth. And I'm tired now. I made this speech earlier, didn't have my hat on, did a video, and I had my camera set wrong because I'm not a photographer, and it had a top hat from my head cut off, so I had to redo it. And I'm tired. I don't have much stamina right now. Too many surgeries and too much going on. So, I wish you well. I wish you adieu. Adios. Con Dios. And I don't believe in God, but I'm saying that because I know many of you do, and I wish you, whatever there is, whatever you can find to believe in, try to find out that there's good that we can get behind and support and make happen in our own way. And I would like to ask one favor of you in closing. I know it sounds strange as well, and it already sounds strange, so I'm going to go ahead and say it. In the organizing of this structure of Earth and our part in it, I know you don't understand it when I tell you, we collectively are the mind of the Earth. This is our brain. This is the brain of the Earth. We are. In this collective thing of our planet that I call Gaia, okay, those cows and those pigs have faces and children, and they want to live in peace, not to be eaten by you. Now, I never was vegetarian. I killed deer and rabbits and birds of all sorts, and I'm not proud of it. Killed a few people, and I'm not proud of it. But we need to stop it. Don't eat things with a face and have children and can look at you in the eye. Just want their peace. Don't eat them. You can find something else to eat. Yeah, I know you're not going to do it, but you could do it if you wanted to. It's hard. I'm trying right now. It's hard. But damn it, I see the truth and I'm trying to deal with it. I'm not a vegan, and I still grab a tuna sandwich or something. I had a little club sandwich with some bacon in it the other day, and yeah, once you get the idea and you feel it, it's a lie not to do it. I don't want to be a hypocrite. I'd rather be a rebel nobody likes. Stand here before you today, wishing you the best, in all honesty. Don't hurt each other. Help us build something, or realize the time of humans are over. You need to know a little bit more about transhumanism, which I'll talk in my next video. What I call cybergenesis in the next video. It's very real, people, and you're going to have to participate one way or the other. If you don't, you're actually honestly going to be a zombie or dead. I truly, totally understand how fantasy, science fiction that sounds to you. You can't imagine yourself as homeless on the street. Believe me, it can happen. My sister was almost on the street. She lost it after her husband, dirty son of a bitch, left her with nothing after a bunch of years for some bad reasons. But anyway, we all make mistakes. We all do dumb things, some worse than others. Go forward, be well. Out. To